everyone. You've reached the Lipstick Leadership Legacy podcast, and this is JaneTaff the Sage.
And I'm Deanna Vestal, your career catalyst.
So, Deanna, we have been talking all month long with various guests about our book club book, Start With Why, and we've been gathering great information about their why behind what they do, their passions, etc. And so this particular broadcast, we really want to talk about you and I. What's our why? And I thought that would be really appropriate to, after talking to so many other people, for our audience to really figure out what makes us tick. Why do we do what we do? What do you think? What are your thoughts on that this week?
I love that you jumped right in. I think that it's a journey and a process, and part of our why is in self-discovery and figuring out our why and our who and what, which is exactly what Simon Sinek is so well known for, and helping leaders know that our life path, our products, our services, and most importantly, our teams are not a one-size-fits-all. We are dynamic. And when we tap into what our why is, which again, I would say this is part of it, dissecting and discovering together, then it allows us then to be more relevant to other leaders or to people that we serve who are in self-discovery themselves.
Right.
What about you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, because both you and I have been through personal journeys, professional journeys, and we've arrived at this place for a reason, right? For service, for mission, to expose our God-given talents and gifts through our experience, right? And so I really feel that talking about how we got here is a really, really important point for our audience to know, because we rarely talk about ourselves. We talk a lot about what we think, our philosophies, and things like that, but we don't necessarily talk about what got us here. And so today, I think we should talk about all that juicy stuff that goes behind our professional opinions, philosophies, etc. So do you want to start? You can go ahead and ask me. It's up to you. What do you think, Deanna?
Fantastic. I'd love it. So let me give a little breakdown about the what. Several months ago, as a matter of fact, 25 episodes or so ago, we came together with a pretty specific what. And that is the outer layer of Simon Sinek's book that we've been studying this month. And we knew that we wanted to be a platform to promote the lipstick leadership legacy concept that we have really been working on for all of our careers. We are women in business, which means almost nothing, except that we have some specific skill sets and some propensity toward like having a nurturing nature, or having a clearer understanding of what other women in business go through. We both agree that after that, business is business. And the bottom line is so clear that it's great to highlight the differences. And then legacy, we know for sure that we have been brought up in business and in our families, our spiritual beliefs, in large part because of those who have influenced us. And we want to give back as well. And then leadership. Well, that's everything we love to dish about, starting with personality, moving into the actual anecdotal experiences from working with personalities, managing the projects of others, and things that we have learned along the way. But why, Jane? You are so skilled, such a communicator. And I can speak from experience about how you have sparked my brilliance. But you have a program called Spark Your Brilliance.
Right.
And it directly lends to why we have created a community, why we're in a podcast. Can you talk a little bit more about your philosophical why you do what you do?
Yeah, really, why I do what I do is redemption. Redemption is a big word for me because I feel like with a lot of people, you have a who you were and who you are now. And there is a whole lot of in between. So for me, who I was a scared individual who had come from, child abuse, and then I was abused in my first marriage, and then redemption started happening. I got out of my abusive marriage, had a break to be able to nurture myself and ask for God's help to identify, who am I? What am I supposed to do in this world? And God brought a lot of other people around me who didn't give me answers, but gave me pieces. And one of the major pieces was get to know yourself. Get to know yourself by personality, by um, communication, by interaction. And slowly he started bringing people into my life who were mentors to me, who were encouragers to me, who saw the leadership potential in me before I acknowledged it. And that began to kind of prop up my very fragile ego, my very, um, uh, painful thoughts of I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, etc. Really a lack of confidence. And as I got through that healing process where God gave me time to really say, okay, who is Jane? Through the mouths and encouragement and care of other people, he brought me out of that time and then introduced me to a man who he exactly wanted me to be with by definition, you know and that's information for a different show. But again, redemption, he gave me a godly relationship, and had me begin again, right? I got to be married again, have children again, and try to figure out who I was now. That's why when you and I talk about this hashtag me too to me now, I'm so passionate about it because that's exactly the road I've traveled. The me too, the literal physically abused, hurt person going through a season and then becoming who I am this day.
Mm.
And I wanted to take all of that experience and deliver it to someone else. Deliver it to someone else who wants to heal themselves personally and professionally, because I really came into my own as I healed myself personally. I became this individual who could be very confident in a professional setting. What I didn't know was I was confident the whole time, but it was a version of confidence that all of us are familiar with. And that is that whole fake it till you make it type confidence,
Mm.
that superficial mask type confidence where I just put it on and then, take it off at the end of the day, just like a change of clothes.
Mm.
And that's not that kind of confidence that God told me I needed to have. He wanted me to have full-time, year-round, all the time, even in my sleep kind of confidence.
Mm.
And that's not the type of confidence we see in the world. That's the type of felt confidence that you don't have to put down because you know who you are. Not only because you know how you are defined and the journey you've gone through, but you also know the serious love of God and how He doesn't leave you in any way in a fallen or painful state. Because that's what I felt I came from, really painful version of myself, and then fully healed and redeemed. And so I really hope to bring that type of journey to who I serve. And throughout all of this, I really took time to think, who do I serve? And what I heard over and over again in my spirit was, you serve who is just like you.
Mm.
She is someone who doesn't believe she has confidence. So you need to be that person who speaks encouragement to her. She needs to have all these talents that she just needs to order so she can figure out how she serves who she serves with the talents already given to her. That's what I had to do, sort out what my talents were so I can powerfully deliver them to those that God brought to me. And then finally, continue so that they can continue on their own. Again, that legacy behavior, right? So I don't have to constantly be their coach or continually be their coach. That's not the point of coaching. It's to help someone strengthen themselves inside so that, a lot of my clients tease me because they say, sometimes when I'm at a big decision point, I hear your voice in my head. And I ask myself, what would Jane do? What would Jane
Yes,
say right now? And it
I'm
cracks
one.
me up. Yeah, it cracks me up because you're like, oh man, I'm living in your head, which is kind of funny, but but isn't that true? Sometimes you have to borrow someone else's confidence, encouragement, wisdom before you can fully own your own. And but that doesn't mean I have to stay in their lives in coaching forever. That just means I've injected everything I have into their minds and hearts in order to make good decisions going forward, which is always the goal. It's kind of like parenting, right? You want to
Right.
give them everything you got and then get out of there and let them play with it and make it their own. And so really my big why is redemption. It's bringing everything that I've been saved from, journeyed through for someone else's benefit, because I've already received 100% benefit from that journey. The only way we can multiply those things is to, kind of that each one teach one, kind of factor, right? And that's really what gets me up in the morning, thinking I can really affect someone just like someone who woke up that day who encouraged me when I was younger and
Mm.
continues to encourage me. I have many people who call me and encourage me, to this day. So, and I've really purposely created that in my life, and we talk about friendships a lot.
Yes,
So,
that is so special.
yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah,
I absolutely agree. And that is why people are attracted, certain people are attracted to us.
right,
I can so deeply, so intimately relate
yeah,
to the power of redemption in the way that you have shared it. And likewise, when it comes to satisfaction, my why is for deep satisfaction in the process of self discovery. Self discovery is not easy, nor is it pretty sometimes. However, it does ease the process. It does open the door to meeting incredible people like you. And my story is so similar. I also thought I was confident. I also was very self-aware
mhm,
and was raised in a culturally competent and ancestral knowledge family. So that when I was testing, even I think I tested the first time I skipped from kindergarten to first grade. And way back then, this will tell you how long ago this was, they also allowed me to skip from fourth grade to fifth grade.
wow,
So being smart for public schools then put me in a social class that I was not prepared for. I was not really even mature enough for. Fast forward, as an adult, the way my ADD was set up, excuse me, something was in my face. The way my ADD was set up, I was a perfect candidate for sales. Someone spotted me right away.
mhm,
And so I learned the sales motto and mantra, but which is perfect for people like me who don't sit well for long, and also people who like to start things but need someone else to finish them. And you because the money is there, it kind of masks the true desire to be more like the A-type personalities that I attract. But we just brush that under the rug. When they say, Deanna, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, I want to be a trainer. Oh, no, no, dear. You have to be on time to be a trainer. Like, I can be on time, And so there was just a consistency, and that is the really lighthearted version. If someone out there struggles with being on time, you know that you might laugh that off, but it is a constant source of deep, deep wounds. You wonder and you're embarrassed and blah, blah, blah. You think you appear to be chaotic, not good with money. I mean, all of the things that come with your self perception around what society's norms would tell you. But that is all perception based. And when I learned that there is a friend inside of me that is not very kind, I really, now we're tapping into my why. I had no idea that I thought so lowly of myself. I thought I was being authentic. I thought, you can't keep it real with anybody else. You can keep it real with yourself. And guess what, Heifer? You ain't really, That was my tone of voice and my attitude and my body language to myself for many, many years. And once I started really diving deeper into how my relationship with myself was a sweet, sweet place, a safe haven, I thought every woman I know needs to have the step-by-step process, because it does get so messy. It's hard to do alone. Mm-hmm. And it could be an emotional journey. It can also tap into past traumas that have been very well kept. It can also expose deep fears that can actually be catastrophic to your mental health, like bring up suicidal thoughts or tendencies, or the list goes on. And I continue to desire to be one of the safety network for women who are self-led, they're self-guided, they're go-getters, they're already achievement driven in almost every area of their life, but now need a safe place to look deep within them and be surprised and be messy and go ugly in a safe way, because it is so worth it for the satisfaction of friendship, me and me. Amen.
Yeah, that is so good. And it's funny how we have very, very similar stories, and we see it very differently, right? We see it from that, like turning the diamond, all the facets shimmer differently. And both you and I, though, we have common audiences, and we serve people with a very similar heartbeat. How we want to serve them from a very authentic place is the same. How we even go about it. You have a personality assessment. I have a personality assessment, because we both saw that the beginning is me.
Yes.
Isn't it funny how you and I were talking about this a little bit yesterday, where we needed to be in the work in order to work with other people?
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
And the value of going through the work ourselves, being our first coaching client.
Yes.
Right? Before we could say a word to another person, we had to know ourselves. And for our audience who's not familiar really with the inner workings of coaching, do you want to give your take on why it's really important to know yourself as a coach before you start coaching other people?
Wow. So first, I would say, for that imposter syndrome scenario, we need to know that you're never going to get it there. You're not going to arrive at self-knowledge, that it is a journey, and the experience is where the treasure is. And if you're not in the experience, if I do not experience the journey of self-discovery with all its beauty and all its good, then I will not be leading from a place of authenticity. And believe me, I'm a discerning customer. I know when someone's giving me full of.
Yep.
So therefore, that is the number one reason, is for the ability to genuinely connect.
Yeah.
What would you say is the number one reason?
Yeah, number one is experience, that you're speaking from a place of knowing, not thinking, right?
Or
Not theory.
academia, not because you have a certificate in
Right.
coaching. It's
Right.
not enough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely true. My favorite professors in college were the ones who actually did this work in a corporate setting. So my favorite instructor in the whole wide world was my marketing professor. And because he had worked for a big marketing firm. And so he would tell us stories from the real world. And he captivated our entire class. It was like a 2-hour class on a Wednesday night. You're all tired because you've been in class all day. And he had us on the edge of our seats every night because he always had a relevant story to tell about why looking at marketing from this particular perspective was important, right? He made a point with his theory with experience. And same in the coaching field. We cannot put out theory without experience, or at least some level of knowing, because we have touched some form of it, right? There's nothing more, and I'm going to just say it this way, nothing more inauthentic in the coaching environment than to have a coach who absolutely doesn't know what they're talking about because they've never been there. And I'm going to use this example, and I know some people are going to be offended, so just be forewarned. For me, I've been married twice, and I would never take counsel from someone who is never married. Why? Because they don't know the ins and outs of being married, and what. And think about it for yourself too. Having somebody in relationship, if you've never been in a successful relationship, why are you counseling me? Or if you've never been through any difficulty in your relationship, how are you trying to counsel me through a very difficult time? Right? And so that's really, really important. Authenticity based on experience, and speaking from a place of knowing was super important to me. And I feel it makes my coaching that much more authentic. And now, as an experienced coach, we don't have to have the experiences ourselves. We've talked to enough people in those places where we don't have experiences. We can borrow from various clients we've had in order to kind of bank known experiences that we didn't have to have ourselves, right? We didn't have to have firsthand experience. So how about
I think
you?
that's a perfect point, because the human experience and the experience of self-discovery does level the playing field for some of the technical expertise. Both you and I have been put in leadership roles where we were destined or pre-ordered, if you will, by our role to consult with people who have done things we never did.
Right.
And yet it's the value or the tenets of communication that are universal. Right. And that is where our expertise had its bearing. Or there's communication, there's also problem solving, there's critical thinking that's applied to the leadership experience. And what is beautiful about working with a coach, and as a coach having a coach, is what's called cognitive dissonance, where you learn how to ask better questions because the truth is inside you.
Yeah.
The coach trusts you to figure out what must happen next with better questions. It's the questions we're asking, it's the tapes or the repetitive line of theory that we're programmed or conditioned to that gets us stuck. And so it goes from what you were saying into the relationship of or with communication.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
from there, the trust is built, and then we end up finding out all kinds of juicy things. You would think that we had the precise leadership experience of other people, because with trust comes all the goods, good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a wonderful platform for learning and making decisions as well.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I know this has happened to you because it's happened to me. And because you get so good at asking questions, your client believes that you know them deeper than they know themselves. But it's really, like you were saying, it's about getting into those questions and asking the questions sincerely, sometimes repetitively. Sometimes, you get the superficial answer and then you say, well, why do you think that is? And then you get deeper, and then, well, why do you think that is? And you get deeper. It's fostering curiosity as an outsider that we're teaching people to create inside themselves, right? If
Absolutely.
I have a reaction and, it doesn't end up well in a relationship, well, I have to ask myself, why did I have that reaction? What was my trigger, right? Why did that trigger me when, they didn't take out the garbage or whatever, or when they showed up late? Why did I have such an extreme reaction to that? um and if you haven't done any work or worked with a coach, you are just emotionally messy, right? You're literally just emoting without any rhyme or reason, because we're all emotional creatures.
That's right. It's okay. It is
Yeah,
okay to a point and at large until it's no longer okay with you.
exactly.
That's when it becomes a torment.
Yeah. And one of my favorite questions, and I know you asked this too, how's that working for you?
How's that working for you?
Because you can engage in any behavior, negative also, as long as you believe it's working for you. But when it isn't, can we try a different way? How about if we try a more conservative, emotionally conservative response? What would
That's
that
right.
look like if we were going to try something different? And, I think because we've been in this work and because we talk to ourselves in a healthy, non crazy way, it's, we get used to asking ourselves, and being super curious about why we do what we do. Why did that emotion come out? Or now I'm to the point where as I think it before the behavior follows, I'm thinking, why are you thinking that? Because you're going to want to do this if you keep thinking that thought, right? And I just say, no, I actually don't feel it as strongly as my mind is wanting to propel an emotion out of my system. And that's emotional intelligence, personal mastery. There's so many terms for it. Most people are familiar with emotional intelligence. That's a piece of it. But emotional
One piece.
intelligence can only be employed with a certain level of knowing yourself, right? And that's why emotional intelligence comes behind that process of personality and self-discovery. So
Yes.
I
Yes.
really love that. What else can we tell our audience about our why, or how we were inspired to answer this question? Because we peppered our audience or our guests this month with all kinds of questions about why they do what they do, their passions, etc. What else can we answer for our audience, do you think, Deanna?
Advocacy. There, those of us who are this age, and I'll let you assume from the tone of our voice what age we are, and with this much experience, and with grown children or children who are now navigating their teenage or younger years online and in person,
Mm,
who are really questioning what's next for me and
yeah.
how do I apply all of the expertise and everything I love to do and really chuck the things that no longer serve. Because if nothing else, COVID taught us what we don't like in
Mhm.
major ways. Now that I know what I ain't never gonna do again and where I'm not gonna return, what's next?
Yeah.
And that is a huge why. It's a huge why. I am on that journey, and my business is centered around career path development, leveraging self discovery.
Yeah.
Oh, does that mean that I am not qualified to lead the charge for someone else? Not at all. We are in a collaborative space. The why is it's time to innovate together. We
Mm-hmm.
need each other right now to spark each other's brilliance, to look at the chaos in an honest way
Mm-hmm.
without venting. We got to get it out so we can create a puzzle out of it and start
Right.
putting the pieces back together for art.
Yeah.
And from there, the bliss that we talk about so often really is deep satisfaction. It has to do with the peace
Mm-hmm.
of knowing I'm okay. That messy is actually productive when applied to the life experience.
Yeah.
We spend so much time avoiding what we do not like or pretending, masking things that we are ashamed of, that now is the time. Here's a big, big why to come together and say, take your mask off. You are safe here. And the
Right.
last 12 months have given me that. This podcast, actually, working through this podcast and our desires for it have helped me take the gloves off and really just peel back the layers in
Yeah.
things that I needed to be comfortable being uncomfortable with.
Right. And I'm going to jump on that aspect of judgment that you were talking about, self-judgment. And when we judge ourselves, because we are so desperate to get rid of that yucky feeling of disapproval, you tend not to dive deeper into that. Rather than getting into judgment of yourself, again, bring back that curiosity. Why do I think that? Even if you have to trace it back to some childhood circumstance, or if it really is trauma, you know, go back there and heal that, because there is no other way of healing. You can't will it away. You can't forget about it, because if you haven't forgot about it so far, you're not gonna, right? You have to go to that point of hurt, of pain, of, oh, I need to do this because I'm not good enough, or whatever judgment that is that created this response. You actually want to travel back there. I was really lucky in my recovery that I actually worked with someone who allowed me, through therapy, through guided therapy, to speak to that hurt little girl, and to travel back to that time so I could grow her up, to give her permission for it to be okay not to be that way anymore. Because isn't it true, sometimes we are waiting for permission
Yes.
because we're so used to it. I mean, we were raised to wait for permission from our families, from our education system, and then all of a sudden we find ourselves in this crazy place called work or professional life, where you are expected to be 100% in charge of your life, but you had no practice whatsoever being 100% in charge of your life. And then you go into this tailspin simply because you never had the chance to practice being me, with my own opinions, without anyone's judgment or tapes playing in my head, if you're that old, and practicing good self-talk and good self-care. I know in our generation, we talk a lot and we make much of this whole self-care thing. And listen, if you are a woman of a certain age, self-care is more than what you think it is. It's more than what you pay an esthetician, a spa, or a nail gal. It is more than that. And sometimes self-care looks like feeling the feelings, including the pain, including revisiting traumas so that you can finally, shovel them out of your system completely,
Yes.
or at least do the heavy lifting of getting the initial bits out.
What is this trauma trying to tell me?
Yes.
Is it okay to feel what I'm feeling? How do we get to that place? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard work. Self-care doesn't mean I'm just sitting in a spa meditating. with beautiful music and lavender, right? It means getting
Although
it.
that's part of it.
Although that's beautiful, get there if you need it. For me, that was never the case. I actually needed to go hip deep into my mess and ask myself, why does this feel like this? Why have I absorbed and made my own these particular messages? Where do they come from? Do I want to hang on to them? Are they serving me? And can I get rid of them, and how? It was super important for me to just get into it and realize those messages weren't put in there by me or my
That's
creator.
fantastic. I am so glad to hear you saying that. I did not know that at all. I did not know what was wrong with me. I just knew I couldn't do this anymore. I felt like I was arguing in almost every conversation. I also felt like I was defending myself all the time. Like, look, this is what has to be done because the government says, or because our corporation says. I always had a reason why I was defending everything. And I was so sick and tired of it. But I had I had to justify it at every turn.
Yeah.
Fridays would come and I would kick it with whoever was available and then sleep all day Sunday. Although I love going to church, because that's where I feel better or lighter. And then it starts all over again. I was miserable. And then, well, not miserable. I was chaotic. I was scattered. I was wore
Yeah.
out.
You enjoyed it for that time, but your spirit was not settled.
I thought this was how it was supposed to be until finally I was like, someone's going to have to help me out of this. And I was masked so well that when I engaged with EAP, you get EAP is called the Employee Assistance Program for those who are in corporate, and you get 3 free visits. You get to learn about therapy or about assistance in psychology as a benefit, as a benefit of employment. And my first 2 visits after the intake, they were like, well, why are you here? And I was immediately pissed. Like, we've been talking for 45 minutes. You're supposed to tell me why I'm here. They're like, that's not how it works. You need to know why you're here. Yeah. No. Well, and so a year later, look, I'm even stuttering talking about it. And this is the treasure of what self-discovery can be. It's not one size fits all. When you are ready to feel better, when you are ready for life to be different than it has been, that is enough.
Yeah.
When we stand up for ourselves, whether you know exactly what the problem is or whether you have no idea what the problem is, but you are ready to make a commitment to be nicer to yourself or to experience a better life or whatever you are ready to absolutely see change, that is step 1.
Yeah. I love how you say that because, it's kind of like going to church. You don't need to be all cleaned up for God to love you.
Church is for the wretched.
Right. You should feel a certain level of dirt. Like, I don't even know. I think it's more authentic to get into therapy with, yes, number one, the desire for shift to happen, right? I don't like that is perfectly acceptable as a state of being. I don't like where I am. I'm very frustrated. And that could be your first step into really figuring out with assistance what then comes after that. It's okay to simply be dissatisfied and not know why, because that is a clue that something is deeply wrong, right? And you want change, you want better, whatever that ends up being defined as, but you don't have to have that defined yet. Being unsettled is enough for you to seek therapy, or if you feel therapy is too much too soon, a coach, a life coach, a professional guide to help you dig deeper, to ask
you went
questions.
right into it. there are so many layers of self-discovery. And yes, at some point, therapy is going to be either encouraged or
Yeah.
referred,
Yeah.
depending on what is said in your coaching experience.
Right.
And I like that well, we're so passionate about it that we have all these different layers and can be a referral source to others. So if you're talking about therapy as the deepest level of learning about self-talk, about learning how the brain actually works,
Right.
and how our physiology is directly related to our thoughts
Mm-hmm.
and experiences. Okay. And then from there, that one step before or supporting might be executive coaching or life coaching, and having one of those. And then the one from there might be having a nutritionist or someone who is very learned in how food is a drug and
Yeah.
how our bodies and mentality react and relate to foods that we put in our body.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, I've got a cough. Can you hold on just a
Yeah.
moment?
Yeah, and I really like where you're talking about, maybe a health professional of a different kind, because a nutritionist can reveal the connection between behavior and food, or, fuel, right? And it's all about what behavior is happening for you to want to fuel your body in the certain ways, right? I mean, Deanna, that I've had a profound change in my diet recently, and it's because of a physical manifestation. I came out with a high cholesterol reading, and so I decided I'm going to tackle it with a nutritionist, so I don't have to feel like I'm fueling my body with things that are not good for my body. But first, I had to talk to myself. I had to talk to myself, right? Is my health worth all the discomfort that I may experience because I considered myself a foodie? I love food. I like eating without having restraint, or, food was an experience to me. And I had to really get down to, okay, can I still have those without eating badly for how my body responds to this diet? I had to get down to, is this worth it, and why would it be worth it if I did all of it, right? So I went whole hog. I
Yes, you
went in
did.
there and I'm like, okay, I am gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, like from one day to the next. And my body started feeling good. And now I have the mental clarity because my nutrition is right. And I don't have the extra fear of, oh my goodness, my blood work is going to be bad. And I have that anxiety and stress. It's taken that all off the table. Now, if I could only get my sleep right, I'd be better. One thing at a time. But, there is such a huge connection between your mindset, and we talked about that a few months ago, and how you manifest it in your body. Because when you make decisions, your body responds to that. For instance, you may think you're not making a decision to stress out about something, but somewhere along that process, you made a decision to worry, fret over an issue when you could have also given it to God, went into quiet meditation, let it flow out and see what actually happens. There are other decisions you could make. Now, is that programmed into you, or are you deciding actively? That's tough work, right?
That is tough, tough work. Yes.
Yeah.
And it is made easier by having friends that you can trust, who you're safe to share your dirty with,
Yeah.
and they're not going to enjoy it. Or, they might allow you and laugh with you, but then have some sage words of advice. And
Right.
it gets stronger when you do have a nutritionist or an executive coach or a life coach or a therapist, and the list goes on. I want to be an advocate of things that have worked for me, because for me it is a whole system of things.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
more I learn and the more I work with different aspects of health,
Hmm.
the less I know.
Yeah.
and the more there is to do. However, I think sometimes that can feel overwhelming to someone who's brand new to the work.
Yeah.
And I want to be both a beacon of light, but a voice for encouragement that any small step is a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
If you are someone who, like me, who just calls yourself out of your name privately because, it's the truth, like, chick, what? See, that's why. And see, that alone is very, very harsh. I could have done things differently. I should have da 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 da. And that is very harsh. That is
Yeah.
not being a good friend.
Yeah.
I don't know which of your friends you would tell you're stupid. You should have da 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 da.
Mhm.
And why do you always show up like that? And gosh, that's why ain't nobody really trust you, or
Yeah.
whatever you would say to yourself, you would not say to someone you really care about.
Right.
And you would not let anyone say to someone you care about.
Yeah. You
However,
wouldn't let someone say that out loud to you, like
no,
out loud.
you asking for a bruise. My mom used to say, you're cruising for a bruising,
Yep.
sister. So this is one step, like just the desire to do something differently could straight up be a question you ask Psychology Today. I used it. How can I be nicer to me? And then at the end, Psychology Today.
Yeah.
And when I learned that I had narcissistic tendencies through my, YouTube research, I was ready to sign myself up to the nut house. I'm like, what? I'm a narcissist. Hello, U.S. conditioning is going to make 98% of us think we're narcissists at some point, which can really be a big turnoff to seeking therapy or moving down the line.
Yeah.
And I want to be encouraging to say that, first of all, narcissism is not as I know you're going to think that I'm a narcissist for saying it's not as bad as you think it is. No.
Yeah. Hold on.
Yeah. But many of us, I'm not going to say that, but I am going to say many of us were raised by narcissists. Many of us have loved a narcissist and did not know what it was.
Yep.
And so because of that, we walk away with scars and trauma that might show up with similar attributes. And simply deciding that I am going to be nice to me and to the people I care about and to the ones I lead, not a carpet, because some of us think, well, if I'm too nice guys finish last. If I'm too nice, you're going to walk on me like a carpet.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and together get rid of the but. Yes, but if I'm nice, but. And add the and. Yes, if I am nice, I can also.
Yeah. Or if I
line.
am nice and they decide to be a jerk, that's on them.
Can set a higher standard. I can learn how important I am. I can, and all of these things that end up being added to the tool belt simply by turning on your neuro-linguistic programming, if you're into that kind of thing, or by listening to spa music, meditation music. You don't even got to do the work. You don't have to close your eyes but one time,
Right.
In order for it to work. Will it take longer? Who knows? I mean, the Bible is littered with stories about miracles, thought processes that change overnight. And guess what? Those days have revisited. People are changing overnight daily, and we get the chance to hear about that. So even though you and I, we can unpack a whole bunch of aspects about the self-discovery or the leadership journey.
Yeah.
And yet I do want to circle back and say every little thing counts when it comes to making your mindset shift.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to say it this way. If you're feeling overwhelmed, because it can be very overwhelming when you hear shows like this where we're saying we did this thing and that thing and we tried this, don't feel like you have to try everything, but I am going to encourage you to try one thing and do it every day.
Amen.
If you decide today that you want to be a better friend to yourself and monitor your self-talk. That's one thing. That one thing you'll be working on until, 20 years from now, because I still have to work on that one thing. Deanna has to work on that one thing. Being nice to yourself doesn't always come easily. Being kind in your words, in your mind to yourself. I'm going to encourage you, the next time you have a negative thought, say it out loud in the mirror to yourself. See how that feels. And if it does not feel good, stop saying it to yourself in your head. Because I think we believe that if we say things to ourselves and we're not hearing it with our ears, it doesn't make a difference what we're saying to ourselves. Say it out loud then. See how that feels. I bet you it'll hit you in a more profound way, because I've been doing something out loud that I used to do in my mind. And I cannot tell you how profound that impact has been on me, because my mouth and my ears are registering in a cycle that they're supposed to. And am I enjoying what I'm hearing? Right? And that's really important. Sometimes we get lulled into negative complacency, that negative self-talk, because we're not saying it out loud. I dare you to say those negative words that you think about yourself out loud and see if that doesn't change your behavior. Because if it does not sound good coming out of your mouth, maybe you shouldn't have it rolling around in your brain.
Wow.
Because that's just as destructive. Just as destructive. So
I love that,
I
Jane.
really encourage you, just trying on one practice that can make a difference for yourself, and be consistent. If you catch yourself, even if you catch yourself thinking a negative thought, ask yourself, just pause and say, what was that all about? Even if you don't have the answer, saying out loud to yourself, what was that all about, will give your neural pathways something else to think about,
Well said. That's
right?
important.
Because what we do when we speak negatively, or things that we do often enough, create pathways, and it's very hard, just like, grooves in the road. It's very hard for us to change. We can't change overnight simply because we decided. You're not going to be flawless in any level of execution. Right? For those of you who've ever tried to take on something new, a new habit, or break an old one, this is exactly that same thing, but the commitment to yourself to try that one thing consistently, I guarantee that it will make some shift, and it may bring up some discomfort.
Amen.
Identify somebody who can support you, even if it's a friend for now. If it brings up a tremendous amount of discomfort, try a coach, because a coach can help you bridge and make meaning from what the discomfort might signify or relate to, because this is tough work. Many of us are very unknowing about the depths of what we have embedded into ourselves, or what has been embedded for us before we could repel it, right? Because we absorb everything. And I encourage you to simply be brave enough to try this exercise until you can't stand it and need to engage with someone else. Because that's what we had to do. I felt like I was an undercover agent on my own behalf for a long time, because I didn't trust a lot of people. I had my trust broken by several people who were very close to me, and I had to reestablish, what does trust look like in order to reach out to someone. I'll tell you the truth. The only reason why I signed up for EAP and found a therapist was because a stranger to me was better to trust than anybody I knew at the moment.
Really?
And for
Wow.
many of us, this is also true.
It was.
It feels like a secret, but I know it's not. I know it's not now. So, maybe
Wow.
people are struggling with trust issues, and they need to find a neutral third party that is unknown to them, who can simply remain in that professional position in order to help unpack some of that garbage that you need to unload emotionally. And that got me started. That really got me started.
Yes, because we are not here to be your lifelong partners for thought practitionership. We are really here to assist you with leveling up to your own inner voice and knowing learning the language so that you can converse on your own. Because I promise it doesn't take long for us to become peers and then for us to then start mentoring each other.
Right.
Once we have access to our neural pathways, in kindness.
Right.
Wow, I appreciate you for coming out with that, Jane. It is weird how things do seem like a secret, or almost they're so sensitive that it becomes private.
Mm-hmm.
And you have put something on the table that leads right into our summertime Boss Babe Mastermind that we've been planning.
Yeah.
That is really for exactly who we're talking to tonight, self-led professionals who know things will work when one thing is different, not when other people are different, but
Right.
when one thing up top, or there's a tool that we've been looking for as leaders that we haven't found through reading or through journaling or from YouTube. And that is what we are offering in this mastermind, is a shared experience through conversation and activities that spark your brilliance as a leader, as a boss. It is geared towards women, and starts in August.
Yeah.
Go on. Tell us more.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Boss Babe Bootcamp is happening beginning August 12th for 12, or excuse me, August 10th for 12 weeks. And this is a time for women who are in positions of power or influence can get together and really sit together and share our wisdom. Of course, you will have facilitators in Deanna and myself to guide the conversation, but we know wherever women are gathered, wisdom will be shared. And that's the idea behind a mastermind. We're gathering women of like-minded behavior. And so we know we may not have the experience. Like we said, you can borrow experiences from other people to get the point across. And that's what a mastermind does. It gathers enough people of similar circumstance in order to speak into your next breakthrough. And so we're really looking forward to that. We're going to talk about leadership, self-leadership, other leadership, and then communication. And we're just so excited about that. If you are interested in that, all the information is on something that is my online business card, and that's easycard.com/JaneTaff, and look for all the details under L3 podcast and programs. So you can find all the information, research to your heart's desire what we're doing, on easycard.com/JaneTaff, JaneTaff. 12 weeks of powerful impact with peers that you for sure will know, like, and trust.
Right on, straight up.
Yeah.
And also we have the last Thursday of the month tomorrow.
Yes.
And what does that mean?
That means it is our book discussion night tomorrow at 7 o'clock on Zoom. You can find it through our meetup group. You can find us talking a little bit more extensively about Simon Sinek's book, theories, with other women, what they think. It may be similar women that you've met throughout the month, but we're really hoping that our community will come out, be open to talking about their own why, their passions, their deeper reasons for why they do what they do. And we love to do that every single month. And our books are listed on our meetup community page.
How can we be found on Meetup? Can you say Lipstick Leadership Legacy, or does it have to be L3P?
I think you can actually search it as Lipstick Leadership Legacy. And so look for us. We are the leaders. You can look for me, JaneTaff. But yeah, we are easily found on Meetup.
Hmm.
We
And
love
you
that
can also
platform.
follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, simply by stating our first and last names
Yeah,
or our business names, whichever you know.
yeah,
Find us, connect, because we really are here to be community activists. I mean, we're here for you.
yeah.
And when you're ready to go deeper, we're ready for you.
Yeah. And by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, we have all of the information in our details. So feel free to find other ways to listen and join us, and information about B3 Boss Babe Bootcamp coming up on August 10th, Tuesdays for 12 weeks. It's going to be powerful. Come join us, and we'll have all the information for you. This has been an amazing, we all month long we have had so much fun interviewing other guests about their why. I know I really enjoy that, but sometimes podcasters forget that they too are a valuable guest, as it were. And because our podcast has two people, it's really fun to interview each other. I really enjoyed interviewing you today, Deanna, and getting to know a lot about why you do what you do.
I feel the same way. Thank you.
Yeah.
I look forward to our next time getting a chance to do this. I think it would be awesome to learn more about you. I've got a couple more questions to add to the question. And I'll look forward to dishing about that and more when we get together again on the next Lipstick Leadership Legacy podcast.
Great ending. We appreciate you guys for listening in this week. This is Jane Taff the Sage.
And Deanna Vestal, your career catalyst.
See you next time.